Hey everyone, and welcome to my Turkish Grand Prix review, looking back at the race at Istanbul Park. Well, that was an uneventful race, wasn't it? So your top three, Lewis Hamilton coming out on top to secure a seventh driver's title. And we'll come on to talk about Lewis in a bit. Second place, Sergio Perez. Great to see Checo back on the podium in Formula One. Potentially could be his final podium in Formula One. We'll wait to see. And we also saw Sebastian Vettel back on the podium. Fantastic drive from Sebastian, and he took the third step of the podium. But I guess we have to start with Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes. Lewis, many congratulations on securing a seventh driver's title. And as I said in the preview, looking ahead to the race at Turkey, when Michael Schumacher first retired from Formula One, I'm sure a lot of us thought at the time that it would take something special to even um, get close to equaling or beating Michael Schumacher's all-time number of drivers' titles, but also the number of wins in Formula One that he was able to secure. But Lewis secured another win in Formula One to take him even further away from Michael Schumacher's record of 91 wins, and he's now equal with the German legend in seven drivers' titles secured. Did it the hard way today, must admit, and it wasn't all plain sailing for Lewis. He definitely had to fight his way through the field to get to being in first. But once he was out in front, there was no stopping him, and Mercedes were prepared to come out at the end as a precaution to bring in Lewis onto a new set of intermediates, just be on the safe side. But Lewis declined, said that he wasn't going to come in for a new set, and I guess that shows just by doing that. I think it just goes to show how much belief that Lewis has in his own abilities, and the fact that the fact that if he did pit, then you just never know. It might have been really close between him and Sergio, going into the final lap or closing stage of the race. But Lewis made it. He made it look easy. He made it look really comfortable. Particularly once he was out in front. Fully deserved win for Lewis. And I just mentioned the fact that he declined the chance to pit for new inters at the end of the race. For me, what it shows is the fact that he truly believes what he believes in, and he will fight for what he believes in. And it shows that he's also really confident as well, believes in his own abilities. So massive congratulations to Lewis Hamilton on securing a seventh driver's title. Bit spine-tingling when just saying it, the fact that he's won seven titles, and it's very no doubt a special feeling for Lewis, and know that he'll be going to sleep with a big smile on his face. That's for sure. And what I also want to say as well is just take this opportunity just to say that Lewis is such an inspiration, not just for me, but I'm sure for so many people out there. He's a fantastic role model, what he does on the track, but also what he does off the track as well. And Lewis is a fantastic role model. So Lewis, keep doing what you're doing because you are a fantastic person inside out, and keep doing what you're doing because you really are inspiring so many people. On the other side of the Mercedes garage, horrible weekend for Valtteri Bottas, and one weekend that he will want to forget, that's for sure. So qualifying, knowing that he needed to beat Lewis to take the driver's title going into Bahrain, didn't really get close to challenging Lewis, particularly this weekend. Could only manage ninth in qualifying, and then he struggled. Had a number of spins throughout the race on Sunday, and yeah, he really a race full of struggles for Valtteri. And like I say, a weekend he will want to forget. But he'll definitely still want to end the season on a high. Three races to go, so if he can win some races, win some of those races, that will give him good momentum going into 2021. Albeit I know that now there isn't really anything to play for, but maybe that might lessen the pressure off Valtteri, and maybe we might see the best of him in these final three races. So yeah, really horrible weekend for Valtteri and one he'll want to forget. But speaking of a great weekend, fantastic weekend for Sergio Perez. And finishing second in the Grand Prix at Turkey, that'll do his chances no harm in finding a seat for 2021. And now Karun Chandhok said it at the end of the race that it will be an absolute travesty if Perez is not in Formula One in 2021. And I can't help but agree with him. And what the race at Turkey also proved, and he's done it, and he's done it so many times. But what Sunday proved, and what the race proved in Turkey proved that Checo again, time management, he was absolutely bang on. He was able to manage his tyres really well after he pitted really early on for intermediates. And he was able to manage his tyres well. It was always going to be difficult to keep Lewis behind for Checo, but he almost got Leclerc and Vettel almost got by in the closing stage, right at the very closing stages of the race. But the Mexican hung on, and massive result, not just for Checo, but also for the team as well. So some really big points for Racing Point. So that puts them, I believe, 5 points clear of McLaren, who we'll come on to talk about soon. But yeah, really great result for Sergio, and I really, really hope he's in Formula One next season, because a talent like him should not be on the sidelines in 2021. And yeah, fingers crossed Checo does find a drive for 2021, because he really does deserve to be in Formula One. And as Karun Chandhok said, it will be an absolute travesty if he's not in Formula One in 2021. The other side of the garage at Racing Point, Lance Stroll, you can't help but feel sorry for him on Sunday after a fantastic job in qualifying on Saturday, putting the car on pole. Brilliant lap from the Canadian. Believe the fifth youngest driver in Formula One history to put the car on pole. Yeah, fantastic lap from Lance, and he up until his pit stop on race day on Sunday, he did a fantastic job. Led at the front, no real mistakes really that Lance made in that first stint, but unfortunately once he came in for that pit stop, he um, just wasn't able to perform at the same level as on the new intermediate tires, and he really struggled. And I really feel sorry for him, because he did everything right, Lance, up until that pit stop. Had he stayed out, could he have stayed out and made the tires last? Maybe, but I think like he would have been in a similar position to Checo, or would have potentially, had he stayed out, then you could argue he could have finished at least third or fourth. But even so, even though Lance ended up finishing ninth in the race, there are so many positives that he can take from the weekend. Fantastic Saturday. He did everything right up until that pit stop on in the race, and unfortunately just wasn't able to make the tyres work in the second stint. But even so, he scored a couple of points, and those points could make a difference. It's those points that could make a difference come the end of the season in terms of whether Racing Point finished third in the Constructors or not. So, yeah, overall, not a bad weekend at all for Racing Point. Although I'm sure from Lance Stroll's point of view, he definitely would have wanted to at least been on the podium. We come on to talk about Ferrari, and what a fantastic race for Ferrari. Disappointing, no doubt, Saturday with both Charles Leclerc and Sebastian Vettel finishing, well, qualifying outside the top 10 on Saturday. And yet, come race day, they performed fantastically, finishing third and fourth. Leclerc looked at one point did look like he was going to get, well, he did get by Sergio Perez on final lap, but he made a lock-up error going into closing stages of that final lap, which meant that his teammate Sebastian was able to get by, but also Checo was able to retake second and finish in second, and Sebastian was able to finish in third. but it was great to see Sebastian back on the podium. I know, no doubt, he's missed that feeling of finishing in the top three, and like I say, it was great to see Sebastian on the podium. And who knows, that might give him some confidence, and maybe we'll see him at his best in these final three races for Ferrari, and then that'll give him some momentum going to Racing Point, or known as Aston Martin, next season. So yeah, fantastic drive from Sebastian on in the race at Turkey, and exactly the same for Charles Leclerc as well. But contrast to Lance Stroll, who wasn't able to make his tyres work in his second stint, Leclerc was able to do that, and he pulled off some fine moves as well. And now another great drive from Leclerc. And when you consider the struggles that Ferrari have had this season, and yet Leclerc is, I believe, is fifth in the driver's standing. He's been he's been one of the standout drivers as well, and so Leclerc deserves a lot of credit for the way he's performed this year in a struggling Ferrari, and the fact that both Sebastian and Charles had good races, good strong races in Turkey. They finished third and fourth in the race. That result now means that they're only 6 points behind Reynolds in the constructors. So maybe they might not finish sixth. Maybe they might be eyeing some places further up in the constructors. So Ferrari, very good race after a difficult Saturday for them, and yeah. Yeah, and really strong weekends, really strong race, I should say, for Ferrari. But there's also mentioned about the battle for third in the constructors. So really good haul of points for McLaren as well, and Carlos Sainz was definitely in amongst that battle between Checo and the Ferraris in the closing stages of the race. Just didn't quite do enough to get by. Had there been one more lap, then I think Sainz would have been in a handy position to take second potentially. But still finishing fifth was a good result. And Sainz had difficult, when you consider the fact that he had a penalty as well after an infringement in qualifying after holding up Sergio Perez, and starting to go way down really on race day. And yeah, he was able to make his way through the field and put in a fantastic drive. So a really good drive from Carlos Sainz to finish fifth. And also Lando Norris as well. Again, he started quite low down the field, and yet he was able to finish eighth. So really good drive from both McLaren drivers. Good haul of points for the working base team as well, and McLaren now fourth in the constructors, so 5 points behind Racing Points. So that battle for third place, as I mentioned in the preview, for the Turkish Grand Prix, I genuinely feel that the battle for the third place in the constructors is going to go down to the wire. Really is going to go down to Abu Dhabi. So every point is going to really count. So, like I say, really good haul of points for McLaren, and that definitely keeps them in the hunt going into going into the remainder of the season to finish third. And speaking of the battle for third, mention about Renault, really off-colour weekend for Renault. A weekend where they really struggled, but you look at the race, you look at the race start. I mean, Esteban Ocon got to a fantastic start, and unfortunately for Esteban, he got spun round, and from that point onwards, he when Esteban was, I think he was when he got clipped, I think he was about third, he was about third or fourth on the road, and then unfortunately once he had that spin, he wasn't able to really recover. So yeah, Esteban Ocon finished outside the points in 11th, and Daniel Ricciardo again. Well, difficult race for the Australian. I thought he might prosper in wet conditions, and he might revel it more. Those the conditions anyway. Wasn't able to quite make the most of it, and he only came home in 10th. So yeah, not a bad. Well, I should say, not a really good week. Not a tough weekend for Reynolds, and they've fallen many points behind Racing Points and also McLaren in the constructors. And as I've just mentioned, they're only 6 points clear of Ferrari now. So not only have they got to try and get those points back to be able to, get closer to Reynolds and McLaren in the fight for third. They've got to look over their shoulders now. The fact that Ferrari are right on their tail in the constructors. So yeah, not a great weekend for Reynolds, and they'll definitely be looking to bounce back in the first of two races at Bahrain next up. And then just finally want to end up with Red Bull. So Max Verstappen finished sixth and Alex Albon finished seventh. A weekend of what could have been for Max. You could tell after qualifying, he was frustrated. The fact that he wasn't able to put the car on pole. And after being quickest in all free practice sessions, Max was really on it. And it's those in the conditions now that we saw at Turkey. Those are the conditions that Max really thrives in. And you would have thought on Sunday he would have been right up there. And in some parts of the race, he certainly was. But unfortunately, from Max's perspective, he got on the curb when trying to get by Checo, and that resulted in him spinning. And then, yeah, really, he wasn't able to really recover after that. He had a couple more spins as well. So, yeah, really difficult race for Max. One of no doubt frustration for Red Bull and Max, knowing that it could have been them that took race win in Turkey, but it wasn't to be. And as for Alex Albon, it it wasn't a terrible weekend for Alex, but again, like Max, it was a bit of a frustrating weekend for Alex. We saw Max trying to get by Checo, and he ended up spinning out. Exactly the same with Alex Albon as well, as he was trying to close down and get close to getting by Sergio. Alex also spun as well on his own accord as well. And again, is that a mistake? That he's making, that he made feeling under pressure? Maybe. But Alex, to be fair, I thought Alex had a decent race. He didn't do anything, but didn't make too many mistakes. It was just that one spin where he was trying to get by Checo, which unfortunately resulted in Alex just dropping down the field. Still able to pick up some good points for Red Bull, but I guess, as I've already said, really a weekend of frustration for Red Bull. A case of what might have been for the team and also for Christian Horner as well. And when you look at what Sergio Perez was able to achieve in the race, in the weekend, really, when he qualified third, also finishing second on race day. When you look at what Sergio did, I think it's very difficult for Red Bull to ignore what Checo was able to do this weekend. So yeah, maybe we might see some more talks between Perez and the Red Bull hierarchy. Only time will tell. We'll know in terms of whether that will happen. But yeah, so Alex Albon, not a bad weekend, but really a frustrating, no doubt, a frustrating weekend for both him and Max, in terms of what could have been for the team. So yeah, so we head into a double header at Bahrain. Now that we know the Drivers' Championship is sealed, now that we know the Constructors' Championship was sealed at Imola, really the battle now, or the focus now, is going to be focusing on who will finish third in the Constructors. Will it be Racing Point, McLaren, Renault? Could you say Ferrari are in contention after the Turkish Grand Prix weekend? Quite possibly, although I think they've got a lot to do in terms of catching up, to give themselves a chance anyway. But you never know. Sports, anything can happen in sport. But I think Ferrari are just a little bit too off to challenge for third in the constructors. So I still stand by the fact that going into Abu Dhabi, it's going to get into the wire in terms of who will finish third in the constructors. I'm very much looking forward to the double header at Bahrain. So plenty of overtaking opportunities, and yeah, I think we'll be in for some really good races at Bahrain. So anyway, if you want to talk about some of the topics that I've just discussed in the Bahrain, sorry, in Turkish Grand Prix reviews, so get in touch. You can message me on Twitter. I'm at Baggies20, and I'm also on Instagram, Manish Patel 89. Hope you all enjoyed the Turkish Grand Prix, and I will also be doing a preview looking ahead to the first of two races in Bahrain. So I hope you can catch me then, and I look forward to seeing you all then. Take care.